Hey there, welcome to my knitting podcast. My name is Andrew Gaughan and I'm a knitwear designer based in Asheville, North Carolina. And I've been doing my podcast about every month or so, updating you about what I've been working on, what I've finished recently, and upcoming designs that are coming out. So thanks for being here today. If you're new to this channel, welcome. I hope you enjoy hearing what projects I'm working on. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. I'm really excited to show you some progress on things I was showing last time. So first up, I am going to talk about what I'm wearing right now, which is my High Falls pullover. This test knit just wrapped up Sunday, and this pattern is going to be released this Friday, which I am very, very excited about. Let me get up and try to show you more of it. So this is a drop shoulder sweater with a, as you can see, relaxed fit, but it's not extremely oversized, but it's nice and loose and comfortable. And I was really envisioning this as being like a item you could bring as a cover up to the beach or swimming at a lake, as well as like a layering piece for the summer and the evenings. It is worked with lace all over, so it has a lot of breathability because of these eyelet rows. And it's also worked in a wool cotton blend. It is Rerum Natura's Candide base, which I really like. It's sport weight, and what is the percentage? It's 30% recycled cotton and 70% wool, but the cotton feel really gives it, the cotton content really gives it a feel like a sweatshirt, I feel like a light crew neck sweatshirt. And I've already been wearing it quite a bit. I generally try not to wear my samples until after I take my release photos, just to make sure they stay in good condition. But a couple weekends ago, we went and took photos at High Falls, which is a local waterfall that the design is named after. And so now I've been able to be wearing it regularly. I probably would be wearing even more, but I've been making an extra effort to wear different knits every day because I'm doing Me Made May for the first time, which, if you're not familiar with it, is just a project where in May you wear something handmade every day, and I've been documenting my outfits on Instagram. If you don't already follow me on Instagram, I'll link it below and you can check out what I've been doing so far. We're about halfway through now. So I think I actually only have worn it one time since we took the photos. But usually I get excited that I can wear a new sample and I'll wear it a whole bunch, but I've been purposely rotating in some knits on my daily wear that I maybe don't get around to wearing quite as often, which has been a really good side effect of doing Me Made May. And what do I want to tell you about this sweater? So it is quite beginner friendly. Like if you've knit a sweater before but never done lace, or if you've done lace but never done a sweater before, I would say an adventurous beginner could absolutely knit this. It has just this simple repeating lace motif. There are German short rows worked in the back, but I give guidance about exactly how to work the lace during the German short rows, so that's like figured out for you. And then there's shaping done in the lace and the neckline, and for larger sizes the armhole, but again I give guidance on exactly how to do that. And it's knit top down, so that's of course a favorite for knitters because it makes it really easy to modify the body length and sleeve lengths. And several of my testers actually modified it to be a short sleeve tee, which I think is so cute. I was kind of thinking about going back and making it have the option within the pattern to be a short sleeve tee, but I really wouldn't want to do that unless I had my own sample that represented that modification. And plus it's such an easy modification. All you need to do is just pick up and knit as short a sleeve as you want to, and you can see in the testers showcase some different lengths that testers did, and testers also, a couple of them cropped it, which looks really cute. I wanted, you know, a long sleeve, full length sweater personally, but I could definitely see myself knitting a second version with a bit cropped and with short sleeves, and it would have like a totally different place in my wardrobe. So I'd really like to do that, but I don't have time to knit that for the foreseeable future, at least. So we'll see what happens there. Okay, I'm just making sure that my focus is working okay. I'm using a different lens. I used this lens last time and it seemed like the focus was quite good, but it's a different lens than I've recorded with in the past, so hopefully everything is just working out okay. So what else do I want to say about this? Top down, drop shoulder construction, beginner friendly. Something I really like in my knits is when a really simple pattern like this makes it really enjoyable to work on the whole way through without being as so complex that you need to be constantly referencing the pattern. So knitting this sample up felt really like that sweet spot for me of I was very engaged because, you know, you have to be going between the little stockinette sections and the eyelet sections. So it's engaging more so than, you know, knitting miles of stockinette can be, but it felt very relaxing and simple the whole time as well, and it wasn't something that I had to make sure like I had a lot of brain power available for to be able to knit on. And I also really like the aesthetic of a kind of more simple design like that, so I feel like that's something I want to I'm always going to want to knit like super basics and some more elaborate things, but I feel like that middle point is really my sweet spot that I want to focus on making designs in, because I really like wearing and knitting things that have some kind of special element but don't have a lot of complexity to them. So I'm very excited about that, and I knit a sweater in the past, willow pullover, that has eyelets, and as part of a basket weave texture, and I really like that sweater, but it's worked DK weight and in a very autumnal color, and that one I felt it definitely needs something long sleeve layered underneath of it to be wearable, which is totally fine, but I also want to make sure I'm pairing aesthetic details like cute lace, eyelets with the functionality of a sweater. So this having cotton content, being sport weight, loose fit, I feel like is a perfect mesh with the eyelets. And especially I'll see designs out there that are like bulky weight, 100% wool, and have eyelets in them. It's like, they can be absolutely gorgeous, but it would be a more challenging to find the appropriate way to wear that feels comfortable. So I really think that's all I have to say about this. I'm very happy with how it turned out, and I'm very excited for the release on Friday. I teased a couple of the photos that we took, but I have more to share, which I'm very excited about because I feel like they turned out pretty well. And if you aren't interested in knitting your own version, make sure you are signed up for my newsletter. That is the absolute best way to make sure you're notified as soon as the pattern comes out. I usually will release the patterns about like 5 or 6 a.m. Eastern time. But as soon as the pattern is live, I will send out the email. So that is a way to make sure you are notified, and you will also be told the release discount, which is a 20% discount. I always do the release weekend as a little incentive for people who want to buy it early. So let me start talking about my most recent finished object. So this is something I was showing off last month when I did my podcast, and it is now complete, and I am so thrilled with it. This is my checkered vest. This is a intarsia vest, worked in a very graphic, classic checkered pattern. And the back is just solid. And it has a V neckline, nice little classic detail at the base of the V. And it's full length, but not a very long full length. So I feel like it hits right at my hips. So I think that this was in progress, but not all seamed together and with the edging last time. So this design is already in testing, and I am really thrilled about how the test knit is going. I especially like doing test knits for designs like this that have multiple colors, because it's always really, really fun to see what color combos people throw together. And I also mentioned this in the pattern, but because of the method being used being intarsia, I used just 2 colors, but you could use as many different colors as you wanted. It's not like stranded color work where you are carrying 2 colors along the row. Every checker in the row could be a different color. So in the future, I'd really like to do a scrappy version, but I haven't had time for that yet. But I do have a second version cast on already that I will show you in just a moment. But this is knit up in the same yarn company, actually, Rerum Natura's Gilliatt base, which is a worsted weight merino. I think the colors are called Biche and Sel. Rerum Natura is a French yarn company, and I'm pretty sure Sel means salt and Biche means deer. Correct me if I'm wrong about that. I took French in school, but it's been a long, long time. And I have already released a different vest pattern called South Slope in this exact same yarn, and I knew that I really liked it for a vest. The worsted weight plus vest is a great combo to me because it makes for such a quick project. And I really like that to mix up between my sweaters, which will take more time to knit, or even a tank top where it doesn't have sleeves, but I'll tend to knit a tank top in a lighter weight yarn. So a lot of times it might end up taking close to as long as a bulkier sweater would, just because there's more stitches per inch. But this yarn company, Rerum Natura, if you're not familiar with them, has a very strong emphasis on ethical sourcing of their all the materials in their yarn, and I'm pretty sure the merino is all locally sourced to them, even though of course the yarn company is not local to me. But every base I've tried out from Rerum Natura I just really like, and I feel like I've been wanting to do too many designs in their yarns because I like to be trying out different yarns all the time, and then I have variation in what I'm working with to be expanding my knowledge of different yarns, basically. But they give me like a designer discount, but they don't give full yarn support. But I do, they kindly give me a discount on the yarn, but I'm not like sponsored by them or something. I just really like their yarn, and all their colors are really like exactly the kind of color palette I really like. They have a lot of earthy tones, like deep rich tones and soft tones that are and the whole color palettes are very well balanced. This base actually, Candide, has a more limited color palette, and there's a lot more pastel colors, but it seems appropriate because it's a lighter weight summer yarn with cotton. But Gilliatt has a very beautiful range of colors, and there's a lot of options for different colors you could use for your own version of this. And of course you could use any worsted weight yarn, but let me show you the colors I'm using for my second one. So maybe I don't have the second color. So far I've just worked on the back, which I'm nearly finished. I'm up to the back shoulder shaping. Oh, it's very wrinkly. So I'm working in this gorgeous sort of teal blue color. So that doesn't look like much, but let me show you the other color. So to knit intarsia, you take smaller amounts of the yarn and put it into bobbins and knit from that. So I've prepared bobbins from the front, but these are the two colors I'm going to be using for the front. So I'm going for a monochromatic look with the darker blue and lighter kind of baby blue, but I really like how these two look together. They're both like, I feel like a tiny bit green teal leaning. So I'm very excited about that. And as I did for this first sample, I'm going to do the edging in the darker color of the two. So the neck and armholes will be in the darker blue. And this is seamed, and that is so that you can work the front only in intarsia, and working intarsia in flat is much simpler in my opinion than working in the round. And I do give instructions in the pattern if you want to also do checkers on the back, but that's optional. It's much faster if you don't do that. And then I like the look of the front only checkers, and a lot of argyle vests that use intarsia, which is like the classic way that argyle will be created. I worked like that, where the argyle intarsia will be on the front only. So I was kind of inspired by the look of that. So I'm really excited to get working on this. I'm hoping to make some like demonstration videos of the process I used of intarsia when I make that one. So I've not been rushing to get it done because I want to wait till I have a little bit of time to film some reels and stuff. But I was really enjoying just knitting up this. The yarn is just so nice to work with. And that is going to be my second blue project. This is, I wouldn't call this blue, I'd call it a mint green, but I knit a blue lace tank top, and I don't normally do a lot of blues, but I'm expanding into blues, and even though this is neutral colors, I'm realizing I really like wearing things that are colorful more than neutral things, even though I'll have an idea in my head like, oh, it'll be so classic and neutral and it'll go with everything. But then I feel like a bit more blah when I put on something and it's just like gray. So I'm trying to continue to lean into using lots of colors, but explore colors I haven't used so much before, like blue. And I feel like a lot for me is like, I like any color. It's about finding like the shades of that color I really like. I feel like I don't love like a cobalt blue personally, just on myself, but I feel like this more kind of tealy blue I really liked. And then that tank I knit was like a kind of purpley blue. Yeah, so I am going to be releasing that vest pattern in July, which will hopefully be a good timing for people who want to knit it up to have ready to wear when early fall comes around and we have first cooling off days, which are perfect for wearing like a vest and a tee with. So hopefully that timing will work well for people. It kind of seems like by July and August, if you're releasing summery patterns, people already have summer patterns on their needles and aren't really tending so much to want to cast on new summer patterns by the mid to end of summer already. But that's just kind of what I've observed. Let me know if that's kind of how you operate. I feel like the window of when people get excited about warm season knits is a bit narrower than fall season knits or cool season knits. Let me know what you think. I know some people don't even really like warm season knitting at all, but I love about knitting that you can knit for all the seasons, and I like having the kind of back and forth between the two during the year. Okay, so I am going to write 20 minutes. I want to keep this about a half hour, which seems like we're right on track. I want to talk about what I'm working on now. I actually, between the vest and the design I'm about to show you, had a different sweater I was working on. And it's basically just in timeout. I just was not happy with how I was working out and I changed it a bunch. And I was like, I just need to move on from this. So I'm not going to show that because I'm not feeling very enthused about it. But I like the idea, but I feel like the execution was not matching my idea. And I think I'm just going to come back to that later. So I feel like I have a bit less done for a month span of time than usual. That's because a lot of time is spent on that. So this next design I'm showing you is, my intention is for it to be a September release. So it'll be my first like fall sweater release of the year. And this is actually a really special project that I'm doing as part of a collaboration with Nora Gahan, who you may know as a very famous, prolific knitwear designer who has written several books. The Nora Gahan's Knitted Cable Source book, I just was trying to make sure I get the title right, is her kind of ultimate cable book that a lot of people really love, including myself. And we met up at Rhinebeck, mostly I think just from having the same last name. We're interested in meeting each other, and she was doing a book signing, and I introduced myself. And since she suggested that we do some kind of knit along together, and we are doing that. That is the intention. So she is knitting a complementary pattern to this one that will be released at the same time, and then we'll do a knit along for our two patterns together. And this is kind of the first time I'm announcing that, so if that's of interest to you, be sure to keep an eye out on her work. I'm not sure when she's going to be sharing her design, but we discussed that it's not going to be a secret or anything. So what we did here, I'll start with actually what we started with. So what we did to have our designs be related is started with the same motif from her book, which is this. And then I isolated that little flower motif and simplified a lot of the external stuff to make a more simple column highlighting that flower. So this is a swatch I did, and not the color of my sweater, but some leftover yarn I had. And this is my sweater so far. So you can see there's going to be 2 columns down either side with this motif, and there's going to be a twist each time and then open back up into another diamond. And then I have a saddle shoulder construction where there is a cable between the front and back panel that will define the 2 sections. And that is seamed together. I used contrasting yarn just to make sure that the seam was totally invisible, that you can't see that yarn from the side. So I'm really happy with how this is turning out. This is, again, like the previous one, involved a lot of going back and changing things, but I have been consistently feeling good about how the changes have gone, and I'm really liking how it's going. But I am going to redo the entire front, which I generally really like how it looks, but all I'm going to change is this section here. I'm just really not happy with. So what I'm going to do is have this split a bit sooner and have more of a V. It's a little hard to describe, but honestly, I think it's a little nitpicky, but I really want this join at the shoulder to look good. And basically this was kind of just like filler rows to make it so that when you join at the bottom of the yoke, they're at the same place. And I didn't want to start the back any sooner. without cutting into the motif because the back has shoulder shaping that cuts across it. Anyway, after I seamed this all up yesterday, I'm like, I'm redoing the front, but I'm gonna just restart it with different yarn and leave it all assembled, and then probably just unravel this after I have a new front to put on in place so I can compare them side to side. And just in case I realize I hate the new version and like this more, I can always go back to it. Because I don't think this is horrible. I'm happy with the fit. I think it looks okay. I just think this is such a eye drawing detail of the cable. I want this join here to look as nice as possible. But let me tell you about the yarn this is knit up in. So here's I don't have any skeins that are not caked up, but here's some of it caked up so you can kind of get a better look at the color and all those gorgeous tweeds that are in there. This is Kelbourne Woolens Lucky Tweed Base, which I have designed a sweater in before, which is my Belle Mullet pullover that was released last winter. And if you remember or saw that pattern, this is a very similar construction, with the main difference being the inclusion of the saddle shoulders, but it's also a top-down relaxed drop shoulder sweater with cables. That one had cables across the entirety of the front and then cables along the sleeves. This one is just going to have the 2 columns of cables, and then the sleeves are going to be in double moss stitch like the center and outside panels of this. And I wanted to do that to really make this cable the center piece of the design and have it be the eye-catching thing, and have everything else be much more minimal, and let those cables shine. And part of the reason for this cable detail is several of the testers did not seem to like how the front and back panels matched up, and the way that the panels work, you're dealing with like a 3D shape where the front is just worked flat, but the back has shoulder shaping, so you're really cutting across that. So these are never gonna line up perfectly because this is a diagonal and this is a straight line, and this one has to start earlier to account of this, like, if you can imagine, there's a triangle of fabric that was basically cut out here by the shoulder shaping. And I don't really think it's a big deal. It didn't bother me in Belle Mullet, but I kept thinking about it because several of the testers were like, oh, I made some modifications to have the lines meet up perfectly at the shoulder, and basically wanting these cables to be continuous from the front to the back, which they're not because they're also going to be flipped. If it went one way, you could absolutely have a sweater that was cables and then you knit continuously and then you went down the back, but they would then be upside down on the back, basically, or upside down on the front. One of them would be upside down relative to the other one. So this is kind of more like a mirror line between the two. So like I said, I didn't think that that was a big issue. It's not something that really bothered me, but it did have me thinking about what could be at that join that would, instead of being a possible thing someone didn't like, add an additional design element that was a feature. And then I also like, since there's so, like I said, there's really minimal detail going on, I really like just having this one extra detail. So we'll see how it all looks when everything's finished, but I'm really happy with that. Another benefit of this, which could just absolutely be done if you knit the front and back and seamed them, but it's kind of necessary with this to seam it because if you picked up stitches, it would be a bit complex to have the spacing be right for the different gauges. Sorry, I apologize if I'm going way too in depth with this, but basically, long story short, you are actually seaming these cables to the front and back, and that adds a lot more structure at the part of the sweater that gets the most strain. And then I'm also going to do a collar that is sewed down with a method that adds a bit more structure, because when you're knitting something in an Aran weight like this, and especially with it being a more relaxed fit, and then especially for the really large sizes, there's a lot of weight pooling on the neckline and the shoulder line. And especially with some of the yarns other people used already in my sample, I could see it being happening. There's a tendency for all of those pieces to want to stretch out without the added structure. And the way you could add the most structure is by doing a totally seam design, but I know that is not what a lot of knitters enjoy. So this is the only part that has any seaming, is these 4 straight lines at the shoulders, and it is going to add a lot of structure into the resulting sweater that I think will give it a lot more longevity to keep a nice shape over time. So I'm really excited about this. I'm a little demoralized about redoing the front, but it's okay. I feel like this is kind of a big project, and I really want it to be exactly how I envision and have all the details be thought out as much as possible. So I'm happy to go back now and redo that. It should just take me a couple days, and then I'll be back to where I am now, where the body would be started. So I will hopefully have that done to show you next time I do a podcast, which will be next month. And there'll probably be a test call for this at the very end of May or very beginning of June. And then if you are interested in joining in that test knit, please be sure you sign up for my newsletter, which is always the best place to hear about test calls from me. And hopefully it's a great timeline for people that they can also have it finished as the fall comes along, so ready to go when fall weather happens. So keep an eye out for that, and keep an eye out for more info about the knit along that will be happening when it's released, and Nora's complimentary design, which I've seen. She emailed me a picture, but I don't think she's publicly shared a picture of it yet, but she already completely knitted her sample. So I gotta get caught up, but I think we'll be there soon. So very excited about that, and I'm looking at my notes. I just have one last announcement I want to make, and then I'm gonna wrap this up. So I'm not sure if I mentioned this last time actually, but I'm going to be teaching my second class at Black Mountain Yarn Shop, which is a local yarn shop to the Asheville area. It's in Black Mountain, North Carolina, which is about a 20-minute drive from the city, and it is a very cute and nice shop. And I did a class there in January about modifying patterns to get a good fit, and this class is going to be all about choosing yarn that is a great match for any project you have in mind, and going through different attributes of yarns like plies and woolen versus worsted spun and fiber content, and choosing colors, and how to consider all these things to be more likely to have a sweater that you're really thrilled with and love wearing, and match a pattern that you're interested in to a yarn you're interested in, and make sure they mesh really well and are a good pairing. So if you are interested in that, that is going to be this Saturday if you're local, and there are still spots open, so check that out. I'm going to link the direct page where you can sign up on Black Mountain's Yarn Shop's website below, so be sure to check that out. And then if I do future classes, again, that will be always shared through my newsletter. So thank you so much for hanging out with me for a bit as I share what I've been up to. I hope next month that I'll have a lot more to show, and here's fingers crossed that I have my next design has a easier flow than some of these last ones that have just involved a lot of redoing, which is always part of the design process to some extent. Rarely do I ever have a plan and nothing gets frogged or redone or changed along the way. but past couple designs have been very heavy on the redoing. So my pace of pattern production has been lower than I hope. But my next design, I do have the yarn for. Oh, you can see it behind me, but I'm not going to show it yet. I'll wait till I have that work done. And that is some design that will be really simple and classic, and let's hope that I have a good chunk of that done to show you when I am recording next month. Okay, bye. Happy knitting. I hope you all are enjoying maybe working on some spring or summer projects, or if you're doing Me Made May yourself. If I'm not already following you on Instagram, leave your Instagram below, or Blue Sky, or wherever you're sharing your photos, because I really love following along with other people who are doing that. And I hope you have a nice rest of your month of May. Bye.